lesson 2.4, how differences build up over time. And what we're going to be looking at here is we're going to be looking at this idea of an evolutionary time scale. So let's go ahead and look at this timeline. Go ahead and click this link here, and that's going to open up this sorting tool. And you'll see a timeline appear starting way back 5 billion years ago and going all the way to today. Now, down here at the bottom, we have some life events, I guess we could call them. And it's your job to put them in the correct order. Read them, figure out what year, and then put them in their correct year. I'm going to go ahead and do this with you. We're going to do the oldest first. So the formation of Earth should be about 4.6 billion years ago. And since we're in the billions, we're still going to be looking for cards down here that have billions. So we've got our first living things appear about a billion years later. And then 2.6 billion years later than that, we've got our first multicellular life. So notice how for 2.6 billion years, the only life on this planet was just single-cell organisms. It looks like we ran out of billions, so let's start looking for our millions. So after our first multicellular life, we have our first fish about a half a billion years later. And then first land plants about 70 million years after our first fish, we started seeing plants on the planet. Or we found evidence that there's plants on the planet. We've seen them. Then the first mammals appear 200 million years ago. 65 million years ago, the dinosaur went extinct with that extinction event. And then way over here, right next to today, is us humans. Here, I'll put myself there. There we go. Humans. Ta-da! And so let's look at this. This is pretty amazing that for the vast majority of time on this planet, there has been life. But the majority of that time, it's only been single-cell organisms. All right, let's go ahead and push this hand-in button. And now it should pop up down here for you. Now we can go to our next activity. Better move me over here. So, evolutionary time. Evolutionary time is the very long time that spans the history of Earth from the very first cellular life to present. And this time scale is actually rather large. So let's look at it a different way. Let's look at the formation of the Earth as it were a calendar, January through December. So we would have the formation of Earth on January 1st, right on New Year's. By March, we would see our first living things. Now, my question to you is, which month, and if you can guess the month, which day do you think humans would have entered the scene here? Let's take a look. So, if these are all those life events, I guess we can call them, that we looked at in our timeline, in our warm-up. Here's what they would look like if that timeline was placed on a calendar. So, again, the formation of Earth, January 1st. March, we have living things. October, we have our first multicellular life. November, we finally get fish. Later in November, we finally get land plants. Mammals wouldn't appear until December. Late December is when the dinosaur extinction event happened. And then, what would you say that is? December 29th, maybe? December 30th, somewhere in there? That's when the first humans would have appeared. So, this right here, we might actually use this in our next activity. So, remember how to get here. For the next activity, this is our hands-on. Now, we're going to do this digitally, which means we need to bail out of here. We need to go to Google Classroom, and we need to open up our slides that are here. So when we open up those slides, we're just going to click here, and the slides with your instructions will appear. Basically, we're going to read through each one of these cards, and each one of these cards has some sort of change happening. So for instance, like this one has a change where beaks are getting larger, and beaks are getting stronger. So that's a change that happened over a certain amount of time. But the instructions here say not only do we just read the cards, but we need to arrange the cards so that changes that took the least amount of time should be on the top of our card stack here, and changes that took place over a longer period of time should be at the bottom. So looking at this first card, or card number 6 here, starting backwards, would you say that this was a change that took a long time to happen over evolutionary time? Or was it relatively quick? So let's compare that change with card 6 with card 1. So for card 1, you'll notice this is an entirely different kind of change, and it's a lot more significant. So we're going from the first living things, these single cell organisms, all the way to the earliest mammals. And these are the changes that happen. Tissues and nerve cells develop, backbone develops, and limbs with digits develop. So comparing card 1 with card 6, we would definitely say that card 6 took the least amount of time compared to these two cards. Card 1 took the most amount of time. So we would take card 6 and we would place it ahead of card 1. So now I've got the intro page. Now I've got card 6 at the top because it took the least amount of time. And now I've got card 1 after it towards the bottom because it took the most amount of time. And now I'm going to turn you loose to independently go through these next several cards and place them in whatever order you think they should be in. And again, according to these instructions, the least amount of time are on the top and the most amount of time are on the bottom, just like we did with card 6 and card 1. All right, friends, go ahead and pause the video and complete this, and make sure that you submit this document when you're done through Google Classroom so that I know that you completed it. And now we're going to dive into the sim. So, for this sim activity, we are going to be investigating a giraffe and an Elamyrex, and we're going to also be investigating a giraffe and a Acanthostega. I hope I said that right. So let's go ahead and open up our sim. And we need to go to our vertebrates mode. And let's go, we can hunt around in here, but they're already in our collection, the critters that we're after. Except for, of course, the giraffe, because it's not a fossil. So we do need to open our tree. And we need to go to our Artiodactyls. So we're going to click this, and it's going to zoom us all the way in, and here we go. Here's our giraffe. So let's take our giraffe, and let's open it up. And then let's go ahead and find our Elamyrex. Study that one too. So as we're going through and looking at these two cards, our goal is basically to read the descriptions and compare the images in the structure tab. Eventually, we are going to go and answer some questions like how long did Elmyrex and the other one we're going to be investigating, how long did they live? Which fossil species was separated from the giraffe in the more distant past? And we're going to do this fill in the blank and answer this question here. So let's just go through and get some information here. So looking at their structures, we can definitely see some major differences. Giraffes are so unique with their incredibly long necks. They're the largest land animals alive today. They can be up to 6 meters tall. That's about 20 feet. Um, Almost as tall as a two-story building. Um, they process food in a special way um, with their multi-chambered stomachs, and that means they're kind of the same as deer, cattle, yaks, and antelope, um, in that they're ruminants. It's what we call animals with multiple stomachs. These animals also produce a lot of methane when they do that, by the way. So here's an Elamirax. They were around 25 million years ago. They've been found in Europe, North America, Asia, and Africa. They grew to be 2 meters long and had several different types of teeth. They might have lived in many different environments. Some lived in forests while others lived in shallow water, the way hippos do. Um, and it's believed that these were ruminants, animals that can process plants and food in special stomachs in 4 chambers. So we can see that they share uh, some of the same traits. However, we can also note some of these major structural differences. Let's see. There it is. Close out of my studies. And one thing we can do here is we can take our Elamirax and we can actually put it right here because it's a ruminant. Now we do need to study this other one here, the Acanthostega. Acanthostega was a fish-like um, type of vertebrate that lived around 360 million years ago. So we can look at our Elamirax again, pull that one up. Notice this one's 25 million years ago. This one's 360 million years ago. These creatures were aquatic, which means they lived in water and they had gills. Instead of fins, they had small limbs and toes at the end. Scientists think Acanthostega were some of the very first creatures to have limbs. Their limbs were very small and probably not strong enough to support much weight, especially out of the water. That means although they had limbs, these creatures were probably not able to walk on land. Kind of a puddle jumper. Now, it's more of a fish, and it said that it didn't have couldn't walk on land, and it wasn't a ruminant animal creature. And you'll notice I was able to place the Elamirax over here. Let's see what happens when we uh, take the Acanthostega, try to drop it there. Uh-oh. This one doesn't go there. So let's ask it to show us. So I'm going to click Show Me. And let's see how far back that in this tree it takes us. Oh, wow. So that's where this one goes. And when we were studying our giraffes, they were way deep down here in this tree. And finally, we get to our giraffes and our now extinct Elamirax. Cool. So let's head back and let's see if we can answer these questions. So how long ago did they live? Well, the Elamirax lived 25 million, and this one was over 300 million years ago. Um, so which of the fossil species was separated from the giraffe in the more distant past? Another way of saying that is longer ago. Well, I think we know the answer to that. The giraffe is much more different from what do you think? Probably the fish one, right? The Acanthostega. Um, than from Elamirax. So the giraffe is much more different from Acanthostega than it is from Elamirax because, and this is where I want you to finish that. So You're going to use the words common ancestor, time, change, and body structures to finish this sentence here in this box. Once you're done, push the hand in, and then we will go to the homework section. Okay, so to wrap things up, for your homework, you're going to order these, and you want the most recent on the top and the longest on the bottom, kind of like a quick check for understanding. You're going to complete this fill in the blank. Larger changes to body structures in organism take more time, less time, or the same amount of time. Answer that question. And then here, answer this one. What did you find surprising or interesting about today's lesson? All right, friends, once you're done with that, push that hand in button, and you are done with lesson 2.4. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget,